Recognizes Mr. Crank for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. My apologies for not being here the whole time. As usual around here, we schedule several hearings at the same time and we bounce back and forth, so my apologies. It's been over a year since the House passed the Fix Our Forest Act, and in that time, Colorado has experienced its worst wildfire season since 2020. We've had more than 200,000 acres that have burned statewide since we passed the Fix Our Forest Act. The House moved this legislation in a bipartisan way, yet we're still waiting on our colleagues in the Senate. That delay carries real consequences for our communities and communities like mine in Colorado. This is a very real risk for Colorado Springs, which I represent. Has one of the largest wildland-urban interfaces in the state. More than 32,000 acres of our community and nearly a quarter of our population lives in areas directly exposed to wildfire risk. This isn't just a public safety issue, it's an affordability crisis, because as this committee has examined, as wildfire severity increases, the cost of repairing or rebuilding homes rises. And it directly drives up insurance costs for our families. The same dynamic applies to utility bills. When vegetation management plans on federal lands are delayed, and when critical wildfire mitigation projects are not approved in a timely manner, utility companies face higher costs. These costs are ultimately passed on to ratepayers. So to all the witnesses representing utility companies, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you all don't like having to raise prices on your customers. The House-passed version of FOFA contains critical provisions to help streamline the permitting process for wildfire mitigation projects and speeds up the approval of vegetation management plans. This is important for allowing utilities to do the work necessary to protect their assets and our communities from elevated wildfire risk. Congress fails to pass a lot of things in a timely manner, but this is one that is needed right now. And I have a question for Mr. Bowling. The National Rural Electric Cooperative Association shared with the committee an example from the Mountain Parks Electric, Inc. about a federally funded wildfire mitigation project for its power lines in Colorado. I understand MPEI's permit application was submitted in August of 2022 and is the only hurdle to initiating this project. Can you update the committee on the history and status of this project?
Thank you for the question. That not being the utility that I work at, I can't speak to it too terribly much, but I can tell you I'm aware of it. I think it's a prime example of needing timely permitting approvals so that we can depend on our federal investments and protect our communities both physically and financially. That's, as I understand it, it's a thing that needs to get addressed quickly, otherwise they risk jeopardizing their grant funds.
You know, years of bureaucratic delay for federally funded projects is just unacceptable. MPEI should not have to wait that long for a special use permit. Colorado's Front Range cannot afford to wait another year for a forest management tools included in FOFA. The Pike National Forest has a pine beetle infestation that is expected to cause massive tree loss. My concern is that this will not only increase fuel loads from dying trees, but also lead to a growing number of hazardous trees that threaten critical power and water infrastructure and that cannot be removed in a timely manner by a utility or the Forest Service. Mr. Baker, my community utility company, Colorado Springs Utilities, testified before this committee on the importance of FOFA and highlighted that not every forest yields a merchantable product capable of offsetting the cost of harvest or would generate interest for a timber sale. What kind of barriers does the Forest Service create when it requires a timber sale as a condition of hazardous tree removal for a utility that is simply trying to be responsible managers of its assets?
That is absolutely a barrier. We have other members, I spoke to Los Alamos, that has the same problem where they're required to have a timber sale. And that just does not seem like the appropriate measure to deal with removing timber from any sort of electric utility corridor.
Just very quickly, would the provision of the House pass FOFA that allow hazardous tree removal without a timber sale meaningfully reduce these delays and allow utilities to act on safety risks in a time frame that matches wildfire conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The chair